You know, another thing I wanted to elaborate on a little bit was the left brain, right brain thing, which I think it's just a useful way for us to put it into a context, because I think it manifests itself in a lot of different ways. But the business that I'm in and have been in for a long time is allocating capital, and primarily I've done that through venture capital. So it's been into technology companies in sort of small amounts, but I've also been involved in the sustainable development movement for a long time, spending a lot of time in some conferences in India and a few other places, and I participate in a couple of teams that are trying to figure out how to steer capital into technologies and business models that are more forgiving and sustainable and less harmful. And there's a lot of discourse and a lot of disagreement around this whole area, but in general, most of the large institutional investors are beginning to sign up for mandates, either called responsible investing mandates or socially responsible investing mandates. And so if you looked at it top down and looked at the number of people who are sort of raising their hand and saying we're going to live by that mission and those principles, you can get fairly enthusiastic that something's actually going to happen. But then if you sort of look under the cover at the actual process by which investments are made and by which investment managers are measured, they're still measured by a very left brain way of measurement called, and we call it short-term gap. You hear a lot of people invest on quarterly, hard, sort of spreadsheet-based data, and the movement that's trying to get a foothold is one that's called triple bottom line or quadruple bottom line, but it's where they start, where people are wrestling over the idea of how to measure return. And there are a lot of people who have made their life in that traditionally who are very comfortable with gap, even though if you really ask them, they always, while they get paid on sort of the short-term gap results, when they actually make an investment into a company, they go out and get a whole bunch of other information besides the gap, because they know the gap is really not a very good approximation of value and so forth. So to me, you can talk about it at the individual, you can talk about it at the corporate learning, but ultimately I'm concerned about it at the sort of capital allocation level, because that's the that's the way we measure things. And until we start to get our handle around some of these dimensions, longer term dimensions, social, environmental, human, those types of things, they're very difficult. They're subjective, they're soft measures, and so people tend to just shy away from them. But
there's a very similar conversation going on in my world. So for the last 6 years, every time you'd go to one of these professional conferences, there was the ROI conversation, return on investment. And the brain dead way of thinking about return on investment is it's cost divided by benefits, and that's supposed to be some number. And surprisingly enough, and learning people think that they have to go to their management, they have to go to senior executives with an ROI number. And increasingly the senior executives are saying, that's a bogus number, we don't care about that number. So then the question becomes, okay, so what do you care about? And increasingly the C-suite, chief executive officers, chief financial officers, are talking about terms like return on talent, return on expectation. None of these fit into spreadsheets very easily. The generally accepted accounting principles don't acknowledge these metrics around effectiveness. And yet the very people that you would expect to be so spreadsheet oriented are the ones who are saying, don't waste your time, because that's going to be a fake number anyway.
Here's another thing. I recommend you guys, if you get a chance, go to Google and type in the term data visualization. You will see some of the most incredible models and graphics that will blow your mind. And when I hear both these folks talking about this, I've done a little bit in databases, so I know a little bit of how you model information. When you look at how these data visualization models are constructed, to me, that's a start point for how you really evaluate what you guys are talking about, because they shape it in a multi-dimensional way. And the results are absolutely astonishingly beautiful and very, very powerful. And I recommend all of you folks to do that. I think kids would absolutely go bananas in seeing the kinds of imagery that I've looked at and putting into my blog. And I'm astounded by the creativity of guys taking a database and we're going to run this into the system. There's a website called MiniEyes that IBM makes. It is a digital visualization tool. You can take any spreadsheet and plug it into this thing and say, well, what kind of a chart do I want? I want a 3D scatter chart. I want to have a sphere chart. I want to have a chart that I'm going to make on my own. It's like a mashup of information. And I really think this kind of multidimensional data visualization is going to be one of the ways of being able to track what you guys are talking about. Talent, like how do you measure talent? I mean, that's unreal. I mean, is it like, you know, Michelangelo? Hey, that guy's got a little talent. I mean, it's a very, very hard model to cap on.